Y'all ready? Ton, you ready? I'd like to say good evening to everyone and welcome to the Shreveport City Council meeting. We ask that this time, if you have your cell phones, if you'd be kind enough to put them on vibrate or turn them off. At this time, we're going to ask the Honorable Mayor if he would lead us in prayer, and we're going to ask that Councilman Butcher would lead us in the pledge.
Would you pray with me, please? Lord, we are grateful for this day. We're grateful for the people who have chosen to serve your people, the city of Shreveport. We ask that the decisions that we make today will be pleasing in your sight and will be according to your will. All this we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
If you would face the flag and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very kindly. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Present.
Councilman Talaferro.
Here, ma'am.
Councilman Butcher.
Here.
Councilman Jackson.
Here.
Councilman Green.
I'm here.
And Councilwoman Bowman.
Present.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the Administrative Conference meeting Monday, November 13th, 2023, and the City Council meeting Tuesday, November 14th, 2023?
Second.
Was moved by Councilman
Second.
Jackson, second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 6.
Thank you. Does any council member have any awards, recognition, or distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes?
I want to recognize Dr. Alan Jackson and his beautiful blue and gold representing Southern University. You know, he's a Grambling Knight and they lost the Bayou Classic, so y'all give him a round of applause because he looks
It's
so
just
good in his blue and gold.
Alan, you look so lovely today.
He just looks so lovely today. Thank you so very much, Councilman Jackson. He lost the bet.
I'd also like to recognize in our audience Dr. Marquis Pierre. Thank you for joining us. Any council member have any others? I have a award and recognition, and I have a very distinguished guest. It is both sweet and bitter, if there's any such thing as that. But today, Madam Clerk, would you read the resolution for us, please?
A resolution recognizing Sherith Roan and otherwise providing with respect thereto. Whereas Sherith is a native of Shreveport, Louisiana, she is the daughter of Cherokee and Amy Adger Roan. She is a public servant, advocate, and business executive committed to making a difference by closing socioeconomic gaps, advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion for all. Whereas Sherith earned a Bachelor of Science double major in Business Management and Finance from Centenary College of Louisiana in 2017, and a Master of Management with specialization in Energy Finance from Tulane University, becoming the first African-American female to graduate of the Master of Management in Energy program. Whereas in 2019, Sherith was appointed by Mayor Adrian to serve as the Division Manager of Administration for SPAR. At the beginning of her tenure with the City of Shreveport, the Mayor and the CAO asked her to serve on the budget team. She served alongside the CAO, the Assistant State CAO, and the Finance Director. Whereas in 2021, she stepped up once again to serve as Interim Assistant CAO after an organizational restructuring. After becoming a certified fraud examiner, she created the city's first comprehensive anti-fraud policy as a member of the Government Finance Officers Association. She served on the Budgeting and Fiscal Policy Committee. Whereas Sherith has a passion for helping others and public service. She has served as an interim in the Washington, D.C. for former mayors Ollie Tyler, Cedric B. Glover, and former Senator Merrill Landrieu. She was nominated as change maker and attended the White House Summit on the United States of Women hosted by First Lady Michelle Obama. Whereas Sherith strives daily to embody her favorite Harriet Tubman quote, "Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Shreveport and due legal and regular session convened, the City Council would like to recognize and congratulate the White House Office of Management and Budget newest program examiner, Sherith, and wish her nothing but continued success.
Wow. Sheriff, would you all come on up? And I see Shelley has come in. Shelley, would you come on up and join Sherith to her new position at the White House in Washington, D.C.? Shelley, you have words first, and then Sherith. Cherokee, y'all can come on up. Shelley, the mic is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We could not be more proud of Sherith, and we joke a lot with Bonnie Moore and Gary, all of them, that all great things start at SPAR. And so Sherith is no exception to that. We are so proud of her and her accomplishments up to this point, and we know she will blaze a trail in Washington, and we can all say we knew her when.
All
So
right.
we are proud of you, Sherith, and we appreciate the time and the service that you gave to the city and especially to SPAR.
Wow. Sherry, welcome to the Shreveport City Council. I can't tell these folk all that you're going to be doing. You tell us what you're about to do.
Thank you all so much. First of all, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, the entire City Council, Mr. Mayor, the administration. I'm truly grateful to God for blessing me with this opportunity. I would like to thank my parents and my family for your unwavering love and support. And to my city, the city of Shreveport, just thank you all so much. I've learned so much while I'm here. I've grown tremendously, and I'm just thankful and grateful. So it's been an honor and a blessing to serve the city, and I look forward to representing our city in Washington, D.C. in the Office of Management and Budget.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Sheriff, we're going to, council members, would you like to have any?
Sheriff, we are so proud of you.
Thank you
I mean,
so much.
we're gonna miss you. It is bittersweet, but I mean, where you're going and what you're gonna be doing, then your impact is gonna be felt all around these United States. So thank you so much for what you've contributed to the city of Shreveport, and continued success.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you all.
And certainly, Chair, as your pastor and all, just make sure you tune in at 9 o'clock on Sundays.
Yes, sir.
And we're good. As long as we're going to do it, we're good.
Yes, sir.
So, would anyone else?
Thank you.
We're going to ask that the council members would come down and join us for a picture. Sheriff, I normally have these framed, but it happened so fast, but I will get you a framed copy. All right. Cherokee, come up here and get in the picture. Come on. Come on now. Come on. Come on. Come on, y'all get in the picture. Yeah, she's in one over there. All right. All right, thank you. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, do you have any awards, recognition, or distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes? Mr. Mayor, do you have any other city business related to the city at this time? Thank you. Does any member have any questions for Mr. Green in property standards? Mr. Harris is here.
Mr. Harris, thank you for you all moving along on David Rains as that building. I know it's a step-by-step process, but I appreciate everything that you all are doing to ensure that it's not going to continue to be an eyesore in MLK community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, would there be a master plan committee report? Thank you. Everyone should have received their budget or actual financial report. Public hearing today, we are required to hold a public hearing on ordinance number 144 of 2023. This public hearing is now called to order. Does the administration have a presentation? Is anyone in the audience present that would like to speak in favor or against this ordinance?
1, 2, 3 people.
Hmm?
1, 2, 3.
Yes, come on. Okay. Yes, sir.
Council Chairman Green, Vice Chairman Taylor, members of the council, administration, thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Eric England. My address is 232 Atlantic Avenue. I'm a resident of Shreveport, 71105. Ordinance 144 is before you, and I would ask for your favorable consideration later in the meeting of it. It's for a closure and abandonment on King Place located in South Shreveport off of Uri Drive near the intersection of Flournoy Lucas and Uri Drive. I am under contract to purchase a building on King Place, and during my due diligence on this building, we discovered that there is a cul-de-sac adjacent to the building. And when I say adjacent to the building, I mean it abuts almost the cul-de-sac, so much so that there's essentially no parking associated with the building. We started looking for alternatives, perhaps on the side of the building, at the back of the building, because of existing servitudes and the proximity to the railroad. Those options were proven to not be feasible. We then approached the city about the cul-de-sac, specifically the engineering department, and how this came to be that a building could be this close to a cul-de-sac. And we went through various processes on how to relieve the issue, and the closure and abandonment rose to be the favored among the seller and I. And we commissioned a survey of the property and submitted that with our application, went before the MPC for public comments, and then throughout the process we also have gathered letters of no objection from the neighbors to the cul-de-sac. I believe one will be here today to express their opinion of it related to the items which were discussed with the city administration, city engineering department, as well as the city attorney, one of which is that the cul-de-sac be paved and also a fence that is located on the said cul-de-sac be removed. But from a standpoint of completing the necessary steps, which we believe we've done in our due diligence, I would respectfully request that you later in the meeting approve Ordinance 144. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm the seller of 813 Kings Place that Mr. England is under contract with me. Very proud of Shreveport. Shreveport has a process to allow us to go through improving properties or trying to change properties or fix things. Eric and I have tried to do our due diligence to make the property better, to make the facility better. And by doing that, Shreveport has put a roll call or a list of things that they asked us to do. I'm proud to stand in front of y'all today to say that we did take that list seriously, and we worked through the system trying to meet the needs to make sure all the boxes were checked. We communicated with our neighbors. Like anything, you do have one that it may be against. However, we're always thinking the best for the neighborhood of the businesses in that vicinity. We contacted our neighbors. One of them gestured, "Welcome to the neighborhood." He's not here today. However, we do have a lot of support in the area. And the improvements that Mr. Eric is trying to make to put a family business there, that I specifically asked Mr. Archer Frierson to vet out, that we gave a good neighbor to King's Place to keep the standard of the area up and make it better, and that's what we tried to do. So I would ask for you to vote in approval of this, and I appreciate your time.
Louis Avalone, P.O. Box 5072, Shreveport, 71135. I agree, there is a process. Unfortunately, that process has not been followed in this case. There are numerous technical issues, but to the previous speaker's point with regards to the neighbors, I have also spoken with the neighbors, and they are not in support of this to the extent that the previous speaker would have you believe. One of the neighbors that I spoke with was told that nothing would change on King Place, that the cul-de-sac, everything would remain the same. And when I informed him, no, that's not what would happen, he said that he would not support that. There is another neighbor that indicated that they would only support this if a cul-de-sac that met the city engineer's requirements for vehicles to turn around could be built. There's another neighbor that is staunchly against that, and I have a letter from that neighbor indicating they oppose the abandonment of this cul-de-sac. But there are numerous technical issues, and I asked Councilman Butcher if this might be postponed until those technical issues with the process are cured. Mr. Butcher is waiting on a clarification from the city attorney's office, and I would ask this body to please postpone any vote or further consideration of this matter until the city attorney's office can provide the necessary information so that the council can make a fully informed decision. With respect to technical difficulties, it requires a petition to close and abandon property that is owned by the city of Shreveport. It requires a 66.666% signature of the adjacent property owners. This has not been accomplished in this matter. It also requires that the ordinance package that is submitted to the MPC initially include the letters, the signatures of those who are in favor of this matter. The signatures of the adjacent property owners that are affected was issued by those property owners in November. The MPC voted on this in early October. There is an ordinance package that does, as the previous speaker indicated, have a number of checklists that must be followed. You have to submit it to the city engineer, to the city attorney, to the utilities, and you have to ask for their responses and recommendations. None of that has been done in this instance. The UDC is what requires each of the following departments and offices to make a recommendation: the city attorney's office, the Department of Public Works, the engineering department, the fire department, the police department, the water and sewer, and any other city department or public utility company that would be affected by the approval of the request. To the extent these departments and offices received any ordinance package, they have not provided any response. I again ask that the City Council postpone any consideration of the above captioned matter until the procedure or the procedural deficiencies can be cured. Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak for or against this?
Yes.
Good afternoon. We are MCS right next to the
State your
property.
name.
Sir,
State your
please
name
state
and
your
address.
name.
Tanveer Akhtar. I represent the MCS board. I'm the vice president of the board. And we are right front door neighbor, the property they're selling. Our west side is Mr. Avalani, and then also north side is Mr. Avalani too. We got these things presented to us by Mr. Eric, who is the buyer. Couple things need to be clear. According to this map here, the cul-de-sac showing 50 feet radius, which is the existing approved by the city but has not been paved or built there yet. Part of that cul-de-sac, which is the north side, Mr. Avalani has occupied by erecting a fence. Part of the south, which is under discussion right now, is abandoned right now, nothing there, no pavement, it's just a rough road. Okay, the question is, when city considering this one, did city consider from the engineering department, what is the minimum requirements for a cul-de-sac? The area over there is zoned industrial and commercial. For commercial and industrial, what is the minimum requirements for a cul-de-sac? So the vehicle, the big vehicles can turn around. If the requirements is the 50 feet radius, that makes 100 feet diameter, then there is no space available to abandon. If the requirements city say is a 40 feet for the cul-de-sac for radius and 80 feet is the diameter, yes, there is 20 feet available, which is okay for a length of a parking lot. So our approval is based on the conditions. One is if city think that 40 feet radius is available and the rest of the space they can allocate to him, we have no issue with that. Number two is if in that case, if the city approves, our condition is that whole cul-de-sac should be paved and any encroachment which we have right now should be taken away. So these are the two conditions for the approval, and we are not against, we are not fully unconditional in favor. We are in favor, but based on these two conditions. That's all.
you.
And I think if we have something from the City of Engineering or department who can explain that if what feet they can abandon, what would be the remaining if that meets that requirement of the cul-de-sac.
Thank you. Sir, we need your name for the record. No. No, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Would you come to the mic? Yes.
Yes, sir. I'm Jody Sepulvedo.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else present to speak for or against? If not, this public hearing is closed. Today, we have resolutions 153, 154, and ordinance 174 to be added today. Has been moved by Councilwoman Bowman, second by Councilwoman Taylor. Is there anyone here present today that would like to speak in favor or against these items to be added to the agenda?
You want me to read the title?
Yeah, can you read those for
Ma'am?
us? Can you read those for us?
Read those, Madam Clerk.
Resolution 153 is authorizing a contract between the City of Shreveport and the Crew of Highland. Resolution 154 is a resolution recognizing Sherith wrong. And Ordinance 174 is an ordinance to amend Article 7 purchases in Chapter 26, Section 26-271 of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to competitive purchasing process and procedures.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Thank you. Today, we will have public comments on agenda items only. The vice chair will control the list and the time.
Sammy Mears.
Merry Christmas, even though it's a little ahead of time. Sammy Mears, 1133 South Point Parkway, apartment 111, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71105. I'm speaking on 9A141 and 9A143. I think it's really a great idea for both of these resolutions to be voted yes on for the pay plan of all the classified employees. I feel that they have earned it. Also vote yes as far as Lamisa Furlow Fury being recognized. I don't see why that should not happen, so I would ask that you vote yes on both of these resolutions. I don't know the person. I wish I did, but even if I don't, it doesn't really matter. Just vote yes anyway.
Randy Cush.
Good afternoon. My name is Randy Cush, 566 Longleaf Road. I'm here for item 161, zoning case 23178-C. This is some property that's been in the family for like 80 years. It's been sitting there doing nothing. No one's ever had interest in developing it, so my brother and I put it up for sale. It's been over 2 years now. We've had no interest at all, not even lowball offers, and the realtor said it's because it's residential. Apparently, there's just no interest in developing that area for residential, so they suggested we have it rezoned to commercial. And so maybe we'll get some more interest. And as someone who's native of Shreveport, I mean, probably our bottleneck is not lack of housing, it's lack of jobs. Yeah, and jobs, sustainable ones, come from commercial development. And with the capital we would get if we could sell it as a commercial, then we would now reinvest in some business opportunities that we see in Shreveport. So that's the reason for that request.
Thank you, sir. Jason Cram.
Good afternoon. Jason Cram, 3839 Fairfield Avenue, Shreveport. I'm up for a nomination on the DDA board, and wanted to put a face to the resume that y'all have for the confirmation. Give you a little bit of background about myself and qualifications, I guess, for the position that I'm being nominated for. I'm a transplant for Shreveport. Been here, got stationed here 30 years ago. Decided to set down roots. My wife's originally from here. Practiced in New England, down in New Orleans, doing historic architecture. And in 2010, decided to open up shop in Shreveport and continue the practice. I own an architectural firm here, specializing in historic buildings. Do a significant amount of work. In fact, we got more work in downtown right now than I've had total since we opened up in 2010. So lots of work going on downtown. We've also, I develop, so we own multiple properties downtown, as well as other properties around Shreveport, but we do have a small portfolio downtown with several buildings. We also have a lot of roots, and I mean, the Shreveport Chamber of Commerce, served on their board. Also was just past president of Downtown Shreveport Unlimited. As such, they nominate individuals to represent the DDA board. So I've served with that board several years, and myself as past president and Mario Chavez, who is a board member, were asked to, if we'd be interested in nominations for this board. Both of us have large financial interests in downtown and decided that we'd be willing to serve. So I'm just here today to kind of give you a little insight on my background. I would love to, like I said, I got a lot of interest and need to continue to serve downtown, and I want to see its growth, and this would be a good avenue to protect my assets and try to see downtown actually thrive. Appreciate your time.
Mr. Avalone, you've already spoken regarding King Place. Okay. Same thing, Mr. Tanrear? Okay. That concludes public comments.
Thank you. This time, we have the following executive appointment to consider today. Downtown Development Authority, Jason Cram. there a motion and a second?
Motion, here.
Second.
Motion from Councilman Talaferro, second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion fails with 5.
Thank you. There are no items on the consent agenda for introductions or to be adopted today. Madam Clerk, will you proceed with regular agenda legislation?
Resolution 137, authorizing the mayor of the city of Shreveport to sign an approval of the assignment by Cypress Energy Partners, LLC, of 2 oil and gas lease to Paloma Natural Gas.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Butcher. Second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Resolution 138, approving an annual payment in lieu of tax in accordance with the term sheet issued by Northwest Louisiana Finance Authority to Forest Trace Solar.
Moved by Councilwoman Bowman.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Taylor. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Resolution 139, authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement for certain city-owned property to Cattle Parish School Board.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Butcher. Second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
That passes with 7.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, on this piece of legislation with the school system, with us leasing this property. I do have some concerns about some of the property that they already have in our districts that they're not maintaining. And we get several calls and we're trying to, we relay those messages to the school system. So would you please, your office, let them know that I really need them to maintain these abandoned schools that they have in these districts? Thank you.
Resolution 140, authorizing the mayor to substitute parties and execute an amendment to the surface agreement dated July 15, 2010 with the First Methodist Church relative to Lot 3, Block 2, 10-acre Lot 3, a subdivision of the city of Shreveport as per plat recorded in Book T, page 783 of the conveyance records of the Cattle Parish, Louisiana.
Moved by Councilman Brooks. Second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Resolution 141, amending the pay plan for classified employees and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Talaferro. Second by the chair. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Resolution 142, approving the 2024 Downtown Development Authority Program of Work and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
This has-
Second.
It has been asked that this would be voted on during the budget. Y'all want to do it today? They said normally we vote with this during the budget. So I'm asking, what would your vote be, your motion be? Councilman Butcher, you made the motion?
Brooks did,
Councilman
second.
You made the motion. Normally we would do this during the budget, So it had been asked to be postponed today and then to be put on to the budget. Do you have any objections? Okay. Yeah, motion, substitute motion by Councilman Jackson to postpone, second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? Madam Clerk, will we vote on the, substitute motion first, or which is first?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7 to postpone.
Thank you.
Resolution 143, recognizing Lamisha Furlow Fleury and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Motion to postpone, please.
Motion by Councilwoman
Second.
Bowman, second by Councilman Butcher to postpone. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Madam Clerk, would you proceed with introductions of resolutions not to be adopted prior to December 12th, 2023?
I have one more. It's Resolution 154, recognizing Sherith Roan and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Sorry, say that again, please.
It's the resolution we added for Ms. Sherith.
Oh, okay. We need to vote on that?
Yes.
Okay. Moved by the chair. Second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Thank you. Now, Madam Clerk, will you proceed with introduction of resolutions not to be adopted prior to December 12th, 2023?
Resolution 144, authorizing a donation of Shreveport Police Department surplus property, specifically retiring one police K-9 Barry. Resolution 145, to amend the fee schedule for the Emergency Medical Service Division of the Shreveport Fire Department. Resolution 146, authorizing a contract between the City of Shreveport and the African American Celebration Corporation. Resolution 147, authorizing a contract between the City of Shreveport and the crew of Harambe. Resolution 148, authorizing a contract between the City of Shreveport and the crew of Sobek. Resolution 149, authorizing the mayor to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of Shreveport and the State of Louisiana Facility Planning and Control Division of Administration for the Shreveport Healthcare and Development Corridor Planning and Construction. Resolution 150, authorizing amendment to the cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of Shreveport and the Caddo Parish Bossier Port Commission to require the city to retain an industrial hygienist to inspect Fire Station 20 quarterly as an operating expense. Resolution 151, authorizing amendment to the cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of Shreveport and the Caddo Parish Bossier Port Commission to allow the parties to use excess bond proceeds for infrastructure projects owned by the parties. Resolution 152, authorizing an amendment to the cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of Shreveport, Sustainability Partners LLC, to allow SP to operate, maintain, and monitor automated water meters and otherwise provide with respect thereto. And Resolution 153, authorizing the contract between the City of Shreveport and the crew of Highland.
So move for introduction.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilwoman Bowman. These items have been introduced. Madam Clerk, would you proceed with introduction of ordinance not to be adopted prior to December 12th, 2023?
Ordinance 163, amending the 2023 general fund budget. Ordinance 164, amending the 2023 capital improvements budget. Ordinance 165, amending the City of Shreveport, Louisiana 2023 capital projects fund budget. Ordinance 166, amending the City of Shreveport, Louisiana 2023 capital projects fund budget. Ordinance 167, amending the 2023 solid waste enterprise fund budget. Ordinance 168, declaring a public emergency in connection with the emergency repairing of the Anderes sludge process and North Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant. Ordinance 169, to revise Chapter 22, Buildings and Building Regulation, Article 1 in General, Section 22-1 of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to commercial and residential construction permit fees. Ordinance 170, an ordinance to amend section 66-141 of chapter 66 of the City of Shreveport Code of Ordinances relative to contributions by full-time active employee and retirees. Ordinance 171, amending section 7426D of the Code of Ordinances relative to solid waste charges. Ordinance 172, amending sections 94, 164 of the Code of Ordinances relative to water rates. Ordinance 173, amending section 94-165 of the Code of Ordinance relative to sewer rates. And ordinance 174 to amend Article 7 purchases in Chapter 26 Finance, Section 26-271 of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to competitive purchasing process and procedures.
So moved on ordinance, for introduction, ordinance 163 to 170. I'd like to introduce those.
Second on those.
Moved on those. What about the 174?
170, 172, 173. I'd like to postpone those with further discussion with the administration.
Second.
Okay. It has been motioned by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilwoman Bowman, that 171, 172, and 173 be postponed. And I think we have one other that was added, 174.
Yes.
That those items would be introduced, and 171, 172, and 173 would be postponed.
So we have a motion by Councilwoman Taylor and Councilwoman Bowman to introduce everything except for
Except-
ordinance 171, 172, and 173.
Yes, ma'am.
We will receive the preliminary fact sheet of what the breakdown of what these costs are going to be. And so we want to make sure that we go over those costs with the administration and seeing how that is going to affect our constituents with this particular cost. If there is, because the water bill is that you're asking for an increase, then I think that it is imperative that the citizens are aware of how much their bill is going to increase and of the programs that the city has in order to those that may have, that are on a fixed income. Many times, we don't think because maybe we can pay it, everybody else does not have the same thing. So I think it really needs to be an education process on how we inform our citizens of how this is going to affect them.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you proceed with the ordinance on second reading and final passage?
Ordinance 144, closing and abandoning the southerly portion of the public dedication for the cul-de-sac at the end of Kings Place.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Butcher, second by the chair. Questions or comments?
Discussion.
Discussion, yes.
And after the discussion, I may change my motion. If the city attorney, Mr. Statlander, and somebody from the city engineer's office could come up, please. Since you're the first one to the mic there, Mr. Edwards, why don't you kind of explain the process here? I have gotten some calls today and yesterday in reference to the procedure and that there are some public records requests that were not answered. I have been involved for the council in pretty much every step of this, several meetings, several phone calls. The initial reaction, my initial gut reaction was to move the cul-de-sac over, abandoned. If you're going down the road, you look to the left, the building in question sits right here, and this cul-de-sac goes right up to the front of the building. And it was done, I think, prior to this being annexed into the city. So many, many years ago. They've always used it. So when I had my initial meeting with Mr. England and Mr. Avalone, my thought was, and the Mr. Furlong and I discussed it along with Gary Norman, was to jockey that over a little bit to the right, the cul-de-sac, which we own the property there. Now, there is a fence. Mr. Avalone has put a fence up over that right-of-way, but it is still our property. It goes in 20, 30 feet. Is that right? So now I think we have a solution to the problem, but now we have a procedural issue, and I'll let you discuss that, or at least what is perceived as a procedural issue. So I'd like to hear what what your take on that is.
Right, the first thing I want to mention is that my understanding is that as far as the public records request, documents, everything that the administration, that the city of Shreveport has been provided to Mr. Avalone. There's nothing being held back. He has all the information that we have. As far as the procedure of closure and abandonment, Assistant City Attorney Mr. Jones is going to talk about how that procedure normally plays out. My understanding is that although the steps were not followed sequentially, all of the information, all of the steps, all of the documents that are required have been provided. So all of the pieces, all the ingredients are there. You just maybe moved around the recipe a little bit. Mr. Jones can talk a little bit about the normal procedure and how it went.
So under the UDC, there is information that has to be submitted to the MPC prior to them making the decision. They were done out of order in this particular case, particularly the request from affected property owners, not abutting, but affected property owners, were received later. They were received in late October, early November. Those have been provided as part of the public records package. There is, in our estimation, there is 66.66% of the property owners that are affected that have spoken in favor of it and have submitted letters. Those letters were not submitted to MPC, but they were submitted at a later date. So the order of the procedure is not in compliance with the UDC, but everything that the UDC requires has been provided and is in the package that's before you today.
So procedurally, if we vote on this, you feel like that we've met every legal guideline that we should have to approve this?
I believe that everything that's required by the UDC is in the package that you have before you today.
Okay. Mr. Furlong, could you kind of explain what we've gone through with this? And then also, I'm going to ask Mr. Dark, who's been involved in these meetings as well, about funding for the building of the build out of that cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I mean, we met. This is a very unique situation, and we looked at what we could do to improve the entire area and to try and make it better for everybody. And I think it was decided to try and build out that cul-de-sac with the closure and abandonment. There's still sufficient width to build an area to turn around in. It would be a lot better than what's there now. Right now, what's there now is just a narrow asphalt road that goes straight through the dedicated right-of-way. So the thought was any improvements would be just that, would be an improvement to the area.
So, like the gentleman said with the church, with the Islamic Center, is that sufficient to what he felt like he was signing into? Is there enough room to turn around a fire truck down there, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, we talked to a couple of people, you being one of them as a former fire chief, and I talked to the captain over at Station 20 right there.
Floyd Lucas and
Schamberger, I think is his name.
Now he's at the port. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, just talking about their experience in there, and he really just pointed out that they're in those situations all the time where they don't have a place to turn around, like apartment complexes, and I think they just said they get a spotter and back it out. And I said that's currently what they do on King Place. So any improvements down there, any more space to turn around would be very beneficial to them and help them turn around the fire truck if ever down in that way.
So funding wise, we do have the funding to complete this if we abandon it.
It's gonna be around 100,000.
Okay. So we're on the record saying this project will begin if we abandon this, that there will be, the project will happen.
Yeah, we're moving forward with engineering design right now. It's nearly complete.
So in my mind, this is better than what's there now. And I understand, I'm very sympathetic to Mr. Avalone, because for years, people have been coming down his drive. Basically, the public road dedication ends, and then you go into his parking lot and drive. And people have repeatedly turned around down there. In my mind, like what Patrick said, it's a one-lane road that goes in right now, and you have this cul-de-sac that's at the end. On one side of the cul-de-sac, we've got a fence built, and on the other side of the cul-de-sac, we've got a parking lot for a building. So if you remove the fence from the other side of the already dedicated road and build a cul-de-sac there, according to our engineers, there'll be plenty of room for people to turn around, which is a lot better situation than we have now. The reason that I think this project is important is because I just feel like that there needs to be a turnaround down there, not just because of a property owner. I think that there needs to be a turnaround down there without having to go on to Mr. Avallone's property and turn around. So, you know, I can only go, and I've talked to Mr. Avallone about this, and I've talked to Mr. England about this. I'm not an engineer, I'm not an attorney. All I can say is go with what our professionals are being paid to do that tell me. And they all seem to think this is a good idea. So we've got the funding in place. They say we followed the proper procedure. I just don't feel like we need to I think we need to go ahead and move on it.
So, Councilman, what's your pleasure for us?
I think we ought to go ahead and abandon it as long as we have a commitment from the administration to finish the cul-de-sac.
Right. And that would be a vote yes, right, Madam Clerk?
Yes. If to do that, yes.
Yes, yes. All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to bring Mr. Avallone up, just ask him a couple of questions. Since we've gone on one side, I'd like to go on the other side as well, just to get more clarification, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Avallone, what documentation did you or have you not received that you believe that is our responsibility to provide for you or to you that you have not? That would make us better understand, well, maybe even not, I'm not sure exactly what the documentation is, but what's missing? I know we've had admission that it's been a helter-skelter as far as getting the appropriate documentation in the right order through, sounds like the process is an issue, but that's for us to deal with later on.
Doing the process out of order has a very significant impact to the result, because when you do it in order that the UDC lays out, you do it in the light of day. And what has happened here is the MPC met in early October, and the letters of support, which there are 66.66% of property owners who signed or are in support of this. But you wouldn't know that because that was not presented to this body as part of an ordinance package, because that ordinance package is also required to be provided to the MPC prior to their vote. So with all of that said, to answer your question, Mr. Talaferro, the ordinance package has to be submitted prior to the MPC meeting on October the 4th. The MPC voted on this October the 4th, and this is what is required to be in that ordinance package. Who the ordinance package needs to be submitted to: the city attorney, the Department of Public Works, the engineering office, the fire department, the police department, the water and sewer, and any other city department or public utility that would be affected by the approval of the request. I've asked for copies of the ordinance package that was submitted to each of these departments, and I have not received any response with this information. I have received documents that may have been presented after the MPC meeting on October the 4th, but I requested, as a matter of public records, what was submitted to these departments prior to the MPC, because that's what the UDC requires. Part of the reason that the UDC requires that, including those letters of support, is that when you go walking in your neighborhood and you start asking around to your neighbors, hey, would you mind signing on to this? Neighbors talk. And one neighbor says, did you hear Mr. So-and-so wants to do so-and-so? Well, yeah, I heard about that. Let me ask him a question. And you engage the community rather than engaging lawyers, rather than talking about rules and regulations. You bring the community together, and that's one of the reasons I believe that the UDC requires that you get 66.66% of your neighbors to sign on to a petition before it goes to the MPC. Because when you start talking in your neighborhood, you go to the MPC meeting where you can speak to the body that has the authority to recommend what is being proposed. It also the UDC also requires each of the following departments and offices to make a recommendation. The city attorney is required to make a recommendation. The Department of Public Works is required to make a recommendation. The engineering department, the fire department, the police department, the water and sewer, and any other city department or public utility that would be affected by the approval of the request. As a matter of public records, I asked for the recommendations from each of these departments as required by the UDC. I have not received those. This is what I'm waiting on. And when I spoke with Councilman Butcher earlier and asked if he had received an update from the city attorney's office, he indicated he was still waiting himself. So as a citizen, if I'm still waiting for these documents, and as a city councilman, Mr. Butcher is still waiting for these documents, can this body make a complete decision? Now, with respect to the city attorney, Edwards, Mr. Edwards is correct. He has provided everything that he has to you and to me. The problem is none of these requested information was ever made to begin with, is my suspicion. And that's why he doesn't have the original ordinance package that was submitted to the MPC prior to their meeting on October the 4th. And that's why he doesn't have the recommendations from all of those city departments, because apparently none was made, if that answers your question.
Yes.
Mr. Avalone, if we just put a hold on the process that maybe wouldn't always follow.
Your mic
What
is
is-
not on.
Excuse me. What is your opposition for this project? It seems like this will prevent people from having to turn into your private driveway, so it seemed like that will be a win for you. So I'm not understanding what is the
Sure.
strong opposition that you have against this project,
Sure.
regardless of just the procedural things that may not have been followed correctly.
I understand. We've been on this property for 33 years. And the cul-de-sac that is there, we've worked with the neighbors in terms of being able to turn around. Sometimes they do encroach on our property. My objection is that by giving away city property, giving away that strip of city property permanently by abandoning it, you do not have enough room for all vehicles to, including large vehicles, to turn around. It would necessitate me spending maybe $100,000 to put up a gate and someone to man that gate to keep people from going onto my property. Now, the reason that I've got a fence there that was mentioned earlier is because the property owner next door, he's parked all of his vehicles and equipment in the cul-de-sac. So to keep him from trespassing on even more property, we did put up a fence. And again, that can be taken down, but ultimately there's not enough. And what you should have before you, and let's not jump to conclusion, what this body should have before them is a plot plan, and so that you can see what it will look like, and whether or not it is worth $100,000 of city money in order to give this prospective property owner a free strip of city property. And that's really what we're talking about. If you're going to spend $100,000 to pave this cul-de-sac, to build this cul-de-sac out, the only reason that you're doing that is in order to give this prospective property owner free city property. And I just want to know how many other citizens in this city would love to have an extra 10 feet of city property on an easement or on a public dedication. So my objection to that, Councilman, is that there will not be enough room unless you have more property to build the full radius of what's there now. It's a 100-foot radius cul-de-sac currently. And if you give 10 feet of it to a prospective property owner, you've got to make that up someplace else. You won't be able to maintain the same radius.
Mr. Evelyn, did I understand them to say that your fence is on city property?
It is, yes.
So how long has your fence been on city property?
I don't know exactly, but it can be removed tomorrow if the property owner will not trespass onto our property.
So you build on the city property to keep other folk from coming on the city property?
No, there's no pavement. There's nothing for, technically, yes, it is city property, but there's not any pavement for them to turn around, because as was stipulated earlier, the cul-de-sac, the full radius of the cul-de-sac has never been fully built out.
Okay. So did the city give you permission to put your fence up on our property, or?
It's been a long, we've been out there a long time, and there was most likely a fence there prior to when we acquired that property.
Okay.
So at one point, Mr. Chairman, that property was outside of the city limits.
Yes, sir.
And so there's structures that were probably built on that property that would not comply with city ordinances today.
Right. So once you found out about that your fence was on city property, did you try to say to the city officials or whoever the councilman was in that district that you was on city property and you wanted to work something out as to staying there, or you just?
Oh, I don't need, the fence, it serves us no purpose other than to prevent the current property owner from trespassing onto our property.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, with me, I trust the councilman. He said he's done his due diligence, and, you know, I understand what you're saying, but I trust each council member in that district. Once they do their due diligence, I just believe what they say, and I'm going to be supporting Councilman Butcher.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am concerned that there obviously has been a breakdown somewhere. Mr. Statlander's been doing this for many, many years. I can't imagine that, like I was saying, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a property manager, I'm not an engineer. I can only go off of what our professionals are telling us. And they're telling us that we did the right thing. What your evidence says is that it didn't. But in the end, I feel like that we're really not given, it's not usable space because we hadn't used it in 33 years since you've been there as a cul-de-sac. We hadn't used the other side in 33 years as a cul-de-sac. I'll be honest, when I go down that road, it looks like a mess to me. I don't know what's city, what's private, what's public. I honestly thought all the way down where your parking lot was, and when this came up, I'm like, well, Lewis parks his cars up and down that road all the time. I didn't know that was your private road getting back there to those other, and I've been the councilman out here for 5 years and was fire chief that served that area. I had no clue how that road was until I got to digging into it and looking at it. I think for everybody involved, for the taxpayers on that street, for everybody involved, that putting a cul-de-sac there is valuable for the development and continued development of that. I don't think that it's sustainable the way it is now, because basically, if you're looking at going down your street into your building, the left-hand side of that cul-de-sac abuts his bay doors going into his building. Now, that's not your fault, and that's not his fault, I don't think. Maybe he should have done more due diligence when he bought the building. I don't know, but now we know about the problem, and they've asked us to remedy it. And if Patrick says, if Mr. Furlong, who is the city engineer, says that there's ample enough space for trucks and other, patrons coming down y'all's street to turn around, I think this is a better situation than what you've got right now. But I mean, that's just my opinion, and I'm an outsider looking. I have no interest in this other than trying to do what's right.
Point of clarification.
Councilwoman Taylor has
Oh,
a
yes.
question.
I'm sorry.
What year was the property annexed into the city?
Oh, goodness, I don't know.
Mr.
think
Stadlander, do
70s.
you know?
I don't know, I'd have to go look at the records, I have no idea what year.
Okay.
1979.
19 when?
79.
So it was annexed in 1979. What year did you build the fence?
I don't know what year the fence was built. And very frankly, I think there was a fence there when the property was purchased.
I don't think anybody knew that the cul-de-sac was even there until this all came up.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Avalon.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I just have one more question, or maybe a couple. Is it necessary, maybe Marcus, you can answer this, is it necessary to abandon the property? If we put the cul-de-sac where we plan on putting the cul-de-sac, is it necessary that we abandon the property? Can we still maintain the ownership of that property?
Speaking with a potential buyer, he was interested in having control of that property for the functionality of the warehouse. We looked at different options. We looked at an encroachment permit.
Right, I remember that.
But Mr. England may speak to this more than me, but he was interested in this option. It was provide the most security to his investment.
I think that one of the options we had was just giving the property a permanent easement of it, correct? For them to be able to have use of that particular piece of property. And then that raised questions as to, well, let's say somebody wants to come and park a truck there overnight or something. There's no way for this property owner to have access to his property because somebody could park there and we couldn't tow it because it's in a public right of way. So I think them keeping the property, us keeping it in our name is not feasible. Now, somebody just said up here, could they buy it from us? Could they buy that easement from us? I don't know. As an appraiser, it isn't worth much. I mean, you're looking at maybe 50 feet by what?
It's a
50 by 50?
half moon shape.
Yeah, 250 square feet.
50 by 80.
It's not worth much. But, you know,
City Attorney.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes, ma'am.
just for clarification, is this the same property that they've been complaining about for a while as far as could turn around? Is this the same property?
Yeah, there's been complaints about this
Okay.
area, yes.
So this would actually help the emergency vehicles and all the other complaints?
That's been the assessment by Public Works, yes.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
And if I may?
Yes.
So the assessment by Public Works, was that supposed to be part of the package as an opinion? That
So-
Mr. Avalone said that he did not get?
So procedurally, yes, there would normally be an ordinance package that based upon the UDC, let me be careful about the word normal. Based upon the UDC, there would be an ordinance package that includes not just the petition of 66.67% of the affected properties, but also includes the recommendations from various departments, including the engineering department, which doesn't exist anymore because of changes that were made to the ordinance, to the code of ordinances, to Public Works, City Attorney's Office, et cetera, et cetera. And that package, based upon the UDC, would have been submitted to the MPC.
Okay, so
That's-
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
That, although that is the UDC, that has never been our standard operating procedures in the city of Shreveport. When we've gone through this process, we've gone the way that it went in this situation. Now, obviously, our standard operating procedures going forward need to line up with
that was
the
gonna be my
UDC.
next question. I hope
Yes.
that your standard operating procedures will
Right,
change.
so Mr. Okay, so what Mr. Avalone read is the way it's supposed to be, but you're saying that it wasn't followed in this
That's
case.
correct. The UDC process was not followed. However, all of the elements that are required, all of the actual information that was needed, all the steps that are supposed to happen took place. They just took place in the wrong order. Some of it, as Mr. Avalone pointed out, took place after the MPC moved this matter forward. And that
Sorry about
procedural.
that mic issue.
I think you can hear me.
Yeah, just speak
That
a little
procedural issue is the primary concern. I do want to point out, since I'm back up here, that zoning and planning are functions that are within the plenary power of the council, and the MPC, the ZBA are just arms of the council to do a council task. I tell you that to say this: in the event that any of this is questioned or challenged, it is your you have wide discretion in planning and zoning matters in the city of Shreveport. This is right in the heart of what your power is. So this is your decision, and your decision is unlikely to be disturbed.
Oh, go ahead, ma'am. I'll
Okay,
wait.
I was going to call for the vote on this, please,
Oh.
and thank you, Ms.
The
Edwards.
vote has been called for. If there are no further action, questions, push the button.
Go.
Motion passes with 6, 1 against.
They're working on the mics, that's why they're going in and out.
Okay.
I just want to let y'all know that.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
They're working on the mics.
Testing, 1, 2.
Working on the mics.
All right.
Ordinance 147, amending the 2023 Airport Enterprise Fund budget.
So moved.
So, second. Moved by Councilman Teleferris, second by the chair. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Councilman Jackson?
Councilman Jackson. And again,
you.
thank y'all for the tulips and all of the.
Motion passes with 7.
Yeah. All right.
Ordinance 148, amending Airport Enterprise Fund 2023 capital projects budget, appropriating the funds authorized herein.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor. Second by Councilman Jackson. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 149, amending the 2023 capital improvement budget. There are 3 amendments.
Would you read the amendments, please?
Amendment, you want me to read them all, or you want to take them up one by one?
One by one.
Amendment 1 by Councilwoman Bowman. This amendment delete the additional appropriation proposed for the city of Shreveport preservation and improvement and for Ford Street utility relocation. The remainder of the ordinance remains unchanged.
All right. Amendment 1. Is there a motion? Motion by Councilwoman Bowman, second by Councilwoman Taylor.
Madam,
Question
Mr.
by-
Chair, are we voting on each one of these now?
Yes, sir.
I would appreciate if all 3 were read
She's gonna read all 3 of them.
before we vote.
Oh, okay.
So our audience understands the gymnastics that are
Okay.
going on.
There's no objection.
Gymnastics.
All right. You,
So you had 3 separate amendments.
we normally don't read amendments, and then we normally go amendment. I don't know if,
Then I make a motion to postpone.
I'll second.
well, right now, you gotta make a substitute motion because this is on the table. You gotta make a substitute motion.
Motion to postpone.
To postpone.
Oh, then I'll make a substitute motion to
I'll
postpone.
second.
Been moved by Councilman Teleferro, second by Councilman Butcher to postpone.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, are there any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I understand what these amendments are, and I do think there needs to be some more discussion. The hang-up for me, and Councilwoman Bowman and I talked about this on the phone today, the hang-up for this, for me, is the major projects such as Ford Street and Knight Street. My concern with Knight Street is, we all need things in our districts. My concern with Knight Street is, it was passed in a 2011 bond issue, and we never finished it. And I believe that goes without saying that the voters are gonna look at that and say, we never finished this project. And it's got a lot of notoriety. I mean, there's a lot of talk about it in the voting circles in those districts. I just feel like that we need to have a little bit more conversation on it to try to find a way that we all can get what we need for our constituents. And not only our constituents, these are major thoroughfares that we're talking about. We all drive on them. I drive on Ford Street, I drive on Knight Street, I drive on all of them. So I would like for us to have a little bit more in-depth conversation and postpone them, but I think it sends a message if we amend them and take those certain projects out. Thank you.
Ford Street project has 3 components. The city has to go in and repair those water lines in order for the state and the commission to do what needs to be done. And so we're waiting on the holdup for there is that if we don't complete that, then we can't ever get Ford Street repaired.
So is there no way to do Ford and Knight Street?
That's why I asked them to break them up. With respect to Mr. Dark, you don't put all 3 of them together. If you break them up, you can decide if you're going to vote on 1, 2, or 3. That was my reason for asking them to break them up. Ford Street is a different situation than Knight Street. So we need to vote on those in that order, not all together. So I'm going to ask us not to postpone, to vote on each one of those separate.
So,
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Then I need to, in all 3 of these amendments, I don't see where Knight Street is in line for turning dirt at all. And so what's the game plan for Knight Street, which has been on the table for a decade and not been completed? We promised and we have not kept our promise. We have the money to do it. It is a major thoroughfare. It leads to to economic development, with the Y and the new softball, baseball fields coming in. It is a major thoroughfare. These people have been, I don't even say they're patient. They're beyond being patient. I'm all about doing the major thoroughfares for Ford. I've traveled Ford many, many, many times, and that has always been needed to be completed. But to eliminate, unless I see something different, to eliminate Knight Street altogether, I'd just like to know, when you eliminate it, tell me your plan for completing it, or at least telling my constituents that have been waiting over a decade, what's your rationale for taking it completely off the table?
Right. I think that's a question for Mr. Dark. When you start using one-time money, ARP money, you have Councilwoman Taylor has a $4 million project, and you have a $10 million project. Your project could be divided with another council person to have another 4. It's almost like addition, 1 + 1 is 2. So it's the price of your project opposed to her project. And I think with the ARP funds, I think that each council person needs to get their fair share. Because if I vote on one street for $10 million, and I have streets in my district that get 0, my constituents are gonna have a bad understanding. So if we pump the brakes, go back to the ARP funds, and start over, I think it'll be better for all of us.
Can I, Mr. Chair, and I have a question for Mr. Dart. So with the Knight Street project, my understanding is it was funded with a bond from 2011. Those bonds have been sold, correct? So we've had that money sitting there and not spent it because the project, not to anybody sitting up here, we didn't do it. But that money, how much was the original project on that bond proposal?
We're city engineers today. I believe the original was $3.5 million, and additional money was added at some point in an attempt to bid it, but even that was not enough.
So I think this council did it, I think maybe prior to when Councilwoman Taylor, I think it was when Councilman Bradford was here, we did approve some additional funds to have it done, and then that wasn't enough to have it done. I just think that the taxpayers have been paying on this bond for something that has not been done, and I think regardless, it's not their fault, regardless of how this is all played out and prices have gone up. We owe the obligation to the taxpayers, because they voted for it, to finish this project. And I'm all for I think we've got ARP money to find to take care. I'm not gonna call this any council member's project, I'm not gonna say Councilwoman Taylor's project or Councilman Talafero's project, because these are all our projects. These are major thoroughfares that impact every citizen in Shreveport. So I want us to find the money to do both of them, and there's gotta be a way for us to find the money to do both of them.
I just like to say, and I hear what you're saying, it's our obligation to do it. I was not a part of that, so it's not, I'm here now. The people that came before me, it was their responsibility to get it done. And so here we are stuck with it. It makes us seem like we are the bad guys because one person is gonna get 10.7 million, and in my district, I'll get 700,000. And my streets have been waiting for 11 years if there's such a thing. I lived on the Cooper Road when the parish had it. When the parish had it, they were nice streets, the ditches were clean, everything was just wonderful. Once the city took over, nothing has been done. They sold them a bill of goods. They said, y'all gonna have, it's just like heaven. Well, if you had a picture of when the parish had the Cooper Road, it's like unbelievable. Any nice neighborhood in the world. Once the city, once they signed the contract, it went to, I won't say to the dogs, it went to the dirt. And that's how it's been. So we have an obligation to them as well as anybody else to make sure that we meet our contract that we promised them. And nobody's saying anything about that. So at this point in time, I really would hope that all of our thoroughfares would be fixed. I wish my district was like yours, Councilman. You got one bad street and it don't need fixing.
No, I don't have just one. I've got several. But and you make the point about when that was in the parish, it was annexed in 1993, and we've done nothing to it since 1993. The St. Charles that you're talking about. Yeah. But I've got more than just one in my district. That's this one is the one though that has several homes on it, and has provided a tremendous amount of sales tax and property taxes to us.
Yes, sir. So what's on the board today is, yes.
Yeah. In 1978, the Cooper Road was annexed onto the city of Shreveport, and a lot of these bond projects that you all, the city, were able to get done was a result of the Cooper Road being annexed, because you were able to garner federal dollars for these particular projects. And so with that being said, a lot of the communities that you see with Allendale and MLK have not received their due diligence when it comes to these particular streets. Now we have a three-part component when it comes to Ford Street in the agreement that we've been talking about for the last 2 years with the parish, with the city, as well as the state. And this is the agreement of where we are to go over here and repair the water lines, where the state is ready to move on this particular project, and they're waiting on the city. If you drive down 4th Street, you are going to tear up the rims of your car. It is obvious. They get calls about it every week when it comes to that. And so I think so many times that when we look at that and we talk about what was done in 1993, I'm gonna tell you what was done in 1978. And it wasn't everybody on the Cooper Road. They wanted to be annexed on to the city of Shreveport. Everybody did not sign on to that. But you cannot say that the city of Shreveport has not benefited with their nice streets in some areas as a result with the Department of Justice, with the Cooper Road being annexed, and as a result, you have concrete streets. And I'm still just fighting to get one street done.
Just for the record, and we'll call for the vote after that, we're not saying no to Ninth Street. What we're saying is that ARP funds needs to be reorganized so we can fit Ninth Street in. Some other wish list that we have, we need to go back and go from wish list to needs and rededicate that money, and then Ninth Street can be done. But right now, the way the ARP money is one-time money, let's go back to the drawing board and work on it, and then we can work Ninth Street in. But the way it's looking now, we all gotta get something for our district. I'm sorry.
Chair's call for the vote on the substitute motion. There's nothing else.
Motion to postpone, right?
Yes, sir. That's the substitute motion, postpone.
Motion to postpone fails.
Motion to postpone fail. this time, read the first amendment that you read.
Amendment 1 deletes the additional appropriation proposed for the City of Shreveport preservation and improvements and for Forest Street utility relocation.
You say it deletes it?
Yes.
What do you mean it deletes it?
That's what I was confused about. That's why I said we need to postpone it, because it's
Mr.
delete
Doc-
that
Mr. Doc, explain
and
that.
Knight Street.
Actually, what I'm gonna suggest to you is that you postpone this, because I think the language of the amendment is effective enough that you can't understand what you're actually being asked.
Exactly.
I was
It
thinking,
seems to me that what you want to do, given what I think I hear, is you want an amendment that says delete the appropriation for the street project, delete the appropriation for the Ford project, delete the appropriation for the Knight project. You can choose which of the three or any of them you choose to get rid of. And what I would suggest to you is that you postpone till next time so we can redraft the amendments. Because there's been some question all along about how to do this in a way that would make sense to you. But what what she just read keeps Knight Street and kills the other two. I assume the others do some other combination. By the time you get through, I'm not sure you're really gonna know what you passed.
I was thinking that
Yes.
yesterday you made the statement that you were gonna give the right language for
Correct.
this.
Well, I thought the attorney had done that, but
Yes.
when she read it, it's clearly not what I think.
So he didn't do it.
So he didn't do it?
We did not get it corrected.
Okay.
So what we were under the assumption that he had done what you had
Told him
said
to do.
yesterday to do. So,
It's very clear.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I asked to postpone it. I wasn't gonna do that until I heard what it said, but it doesn't get Ford Street either.
But
So
when
Madam-
you weren't here yesterday when the attorney was supposed
Mis-
to
Mr.
make
Chair.
sure.
I listened, I
that-
listened, I
yeah,
heard.
that the language
Mr.
was correct.
so Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair?
At this point in time.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, for the record, Mr. Dark and I did speak, and we did work on the amendments, but after I hear the discussion, there, it needs to be postponed so that the language could accurately reflect what you guys are trying to do. Because
Motion.
right now, as it stands, as Mr. Dark says, it doesn't reflect.
So do we just make a simple motion to postpone,
I don't know if you
149?
can do
Well,
it.
you can reconsider, but it would have to be brought back by the prevailing, whoever.
Motion to reconsider.
So whoever voted not to postpone it, somebody
That's
from
what
that
we're
needs to bring
I'd
it
like
back
to
up.
make a motion to postpone 149.
Motion to reconsider.
Reconsider.
Second.
Moved by the chair, second by Councilman Jackson. Are there any questions or comments? This is the motion to reconsider.
The motion passes with 7.
So now that motion passed, so I would like to make a motion that we postpone.
Second.
149. Moved by the chair, second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Madam Chair, you may continue.
Mr. Chairman, just one quick deal on this before we end. If we could get this maybe about, I don't know, late next week, mid next week, before the meeting, where we can all review this and hash over it before we go through this again.
I agree.
Yes, sir.
It's complicated enough with everybody's personalities and needs for districts, but when the legislation's not properly presented, it makes it even more difficult. So, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 150, amending the 2023 budget for the general fund to revise appropriation for various departments.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Telefair,
Second.
second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 151, amending the 2023 budget for the general fund to provide an appropriation to the Fireman's Pension and Relief Fund.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Butcher.
Second.
Second by Councilman Teleferro and Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
This is the money that we're adding to their pension fund, correct?
Short up.
To the old pension fund.
Okay. Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 152, amending the 2023 Community Development Special Revenue Fund budget.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman
Taylor.
Taylor,
Second.
second by Councilman Teleferro. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 153, amending the 2023 Golf Enterprise Fund budget.
Moved by Councilman
Second.
Jackson, second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 154, amending the 2023 budget for the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund. Did I say 154? Ordinance 154?
154.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Butcher, second by Councilman Jackson. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 155, amending the 2023 Metropolitan Planning Commission Special Revenue Fund budget.
So moved. Moved by Councilman Jackson, second by Councilwoman Taylor. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 156, an ordinance of the Shreveport City Council creating economic development district with the city of Shreveport to be named the Economic Development District F, defining the boundaries thereof from which certain area, local, potentially state sales and use tax increments will be determined and used to finance economic development projects within the district, all authorized by Part 2 of Chapter 27 of Title 23 of the Louisiana Revised Statute of 1950 as amended. This will need to be postponed.
Motion to postpone by the
Second.
chair. Second by Councilwoman Taylor. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Councilwoman Taylor?
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 157 to revise Chapter 74, Solid Waste, Article 3, Regulations, Section 74-54 of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to disposal fee per ton of normal waste.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Teleferro. Second by Councilman Jackson. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 158, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Shreveport to add Article 12 to Chapter 78 relative to noise measurement procedures.
Moved by the chair. Second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments?
Is this amendment allowing the enforcement for police officers?
That's what I agreed.
Mr. Mayor?
Restate the question real fast.
Is this amendment allowing the police to enforce the noise ordinance?
No, ma'am.
What is this amendment?
This amendment is the procedures. It primarily pertains to construction management plans and those sorts of things. The ordinance that gave the authority to police officers to enforce the noise ordinance was in the ordinance that was passed at the last meeting.
What do you mean, construction management plans?
The original noise ordinance was passed with the primary focus on construction matters, fracking, those sorts of things. When we rewrote the noise ordinance, we separated the stuff that pertained to construction, fracking, those sorts of things, from the stuff that had to do more with restaurants, bars, nightclubs, and those sorts of things. So the enforcement by police officers, as well as the levels and all those things, passed at the last meeting. This was us moving the old language that had to do with construction, management plans, and those sorts of things away from the enforcement stuff and putting it in a different part of the code so that there wasn't confusion. But this stuff has to do with the procedures of noise measurement when it pertains to noise management for construction primarily.
Who enforces the noise management for in construction? Because I know that we see several wells going up around the city, and typically there is a lot of fracking that goes on at night. So who enforces that?
That's still done by the noise. That's still done by a person who's in the engineering realm. That person was formerly called the noise enforcement officer. I think that language was changed. But there's references in the enforcement procedures that passed last meeting to these provisions. But this stuff, the direct answer to your question is the person who would enforce the plans for construction and those sorts of things is an engineering person. It's separate from the bars, nightclubs, restaurants.
Since we're limited by the Office of Conservation, and they are the individuals that provide the permits and all of this right here for fracking, how does this ordinance, or is this ordinance, does it have any effect as far as the city is concerned? Because most of the times when this is done by the state has supersedes so much of what it is that we do. And so you would have a number of complaints when it comes to the fracking noise. Who enforces that? Will the companies be in compliance with the city of Shreveport and their fracking? Or will we have to do something to send to the state of Louisiana Office of Conservation?
They're gonna, those companies are gonna have to be accountable to both the state and to the city.
Is there a different decibel for the state fracking?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I don't know. I'm certain that our personnel, Mr. Wes Weiss, who's been doing this for years and years, is referencing back and forth between the state and the city. I'm certain that that's taking place.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions or
I
comments?
just have one,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chair. So we don't know what the DBA levels are for construction, I guess, mechanisms, but, and this just amends, I don't know what it amends, because I have not read it. So the question I have is that, so right now, we have one person that is responsible for measuring or actually responding to fracking noise complaints with the city. Is that the job, I guess, is what I'm asking?
Two things. It's not that we don't know what the levels are. I don't know what the state levels are. It's not that we don't. We know what the levels are in the city ordinance and that sort of thing, and those were passed at the last meeting. The way the levels work is that they're different for different kinds of areas, and the areas that have industrial work going on, the limits on those at day and night is 70 decibels. But that was in the ordinance that passed last week. This has to do with.
It's separate, I get it. Yeah.
This is separate.
Right. Okay, so so if I have a constituent that has a complaint.
Yes.
About noise regarding oil rigs, fracking, trucks, whatever it is, then we do have someone within the city that actually handles that complaint.
Yes.
Okay.
They're gonna get up in the middle of the night?
And that's.
Well, that was gonna be my question is that, let's
How
say
do
the
we-
police department gets a call on it, is that gonna be forwarded to the right, or are they gonna say, we don't have anything to do with that?
Right.
They'll get it to the right people. My understanding, and I asked that question, my understanding is that Mr. Weiss has gotten up in the middle of the night and responded to some complaints in the past. He said it doesn't happen often, but he said that is something that he has done in the past. I think he would prefer not to if he could get
Right.
away with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they know how to get that to the right people.
I just hope that the dispatchers at the police department, or the communications officers, should be told, because I know I've got complaints before that they've called and they've said, well, we don't take care of that.
Correct.
So I hope that they'll be informed, Chief, that there is a procedure to send it forward to to refer it to somebody else, now that we've
Right.
cleaned this ordinance up.
That's right, absolutely. And to be clear, that, you know, in the event that actual enforcement needs to take place, I'm sure the police department will be involved in that as well. So it's not that they can just, you know, that they would be in a position to just punt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, push the button. Madam Clerk?
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 159 to amend various articles and sections of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Unified Development Code, adding several code requirements related to liquor sales with all new provisions included herein.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Clark.
Mr. Clark?
I just wanted to share with you that there were some last-minute methods of measurement that were brought to our attention from the city attorney's office. We would ask that you remand this back to the MPC in order for us to attempt. I talked to city attorney, Mr. Edwards, possibly bring in line the Chapter 10 and the UDC method of measurement.
So you want us to
So you want
remand
us
it
to
back?
postpone this?
Please.
So substitute
You want
motion.
us to,
We need to remand it.
you want us to remand it, you want us to, what do you want us?
We need to change it, so I guess it would require remanding.
Okay, so we have a substitute motion to remand this back to the,
So moved.
Thank you.
MPC.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Butcher, second by Councilwoman Taylor, that we got to vote on the substitute motion first to remand it back. So we're voting on the substitute motion now. If no other comments, push the button.
Motion passes on the substitute motion to remand.
So at this time, we need a motion to remand it back. Moved by Councilman Taylor, second by
No,
Councilman Butcher.
your vote just did that.
Ma'am?
Your vote just remanded it back.
Okay, all right. Wanted to make sure.
Ordinance, you want me to go on? Ordinance 160 to amend various articles and sections of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Unified Development Code, adding several code provisions related to accessory dwelling units with all new provisions included herein.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor,
Second.
second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 161, zoning case 23-178C, to amend the official zoning map of the City of Shreveport Unified Development Code by rezoning property located west side of Linwood Avenue, approximately 445 feet north of Mount Zion, from R17 Single Family Residential Zoning District to C3 General Commercial Zoning District.
Moved by Councilman
Second.
Jackson, second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
I think Mr. Clark wanted you.
Can I come back up, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarity's sake, the MPC board recommended C1 zoning, not the C3 zoning that the applicant had applied for, and they recommended the entire tract of land be C1. So whatever needs to be done, we would ask you to ensure that the record reflects that this is C1 and not C3.
Okay.
So do we vote for it to be C1?
Yes, sir. That's what the recommendation said. The application was for C3.
So do
Do
we
we
need to
have the,
rescind the
I'm
vote?
sorry.
No, we voted on C3.
C3?
So the language is incorrect?
The application was for C3, but the actual recommendation from the MPC was for C1. And I think you just voted to adopt the C3
So
when
we
the
need to
recommendation
rescind-
was C1.
We need to rescind this?
Motion to rescind.
Yes.
Or-
Motion from Councilman Jackson to rescind, second by the chair. Are there any questions or comments?
Reconsider.
If
And-
not,
And do we need to remand it back to the MPC?
yeah.
Was it C1?
Do-
Yeah.
Did you see it?
If there are no questions or comments,
I have a couple of questions.
let's vote. Hold on, sir.
Oh, sorry.
No, sir.
This is a motion to reconsider.
Okay. Motion to reconsider.
By Jackson and Taylor.
All right.
Motion passes with 7.
Motion moved by Councilman Jackson, second by Councilman Butcher to remand this back to the MPC.
Do we?
No, it doesn't have to be remanded back to the
doesn't
NPC.
have-
It may have to be postponed because the language in the title says C3,
Okay.
but the
So
recommendation
the
in the
motion should be to
packet is
postpone?
C1, so that can be corrected.
Motion by Councilman Jackson, second by Councilman Butcher to postpone. Are there any questions or comments?
Can we not change, I guess since it's got C3 in it, we can't just change it and approve C1 in zoning cases?
Well, since it's on for a second reading, it would have to be an amendment just to change the language
Okay,
from C1,
okay.
C3 to C1.
Okay.
All right. If nothing more, push the button.
Motion to postpone passes with 7.
At this time, the chair would like to make a motion to remove the 2024 budget ordinance. We got 162. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Ordinance 162, an ordinance authorizing the lease of Millennium Studios, a city-owned property, to Genuine Film and Television LLC, and this will need to be postponed.
Motion to postpone.
Second.
Motion by the chair, second by Councilwoman Taylor to postpone. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, sir. It can't be
Can't vote
voted
this,
on
sir.
until the 12th.
That's it.
Advertisement purposes.
We'll have to advertise it. Yes, sir.
Motion passes with 7.
Thank you. Now, at this time, we'd like to remove the 2024 budget ordinance from the table to place on the December 12th agenda. There's a motion by the chair. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Councilman Jackson.
Motion passes with 7.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, is there any legislation to be removed from the table today?
No, that's it.
Thank you. We have no property standards or ABO appeals to consider today. We have no MPC or ZBA cases to consider today. Madam Clerk, are there any other appeals?
No, sir.
Are there any reports from officers, boards, and committees? Madam Clerk, is there a clerk's report?
The following letter of appointment was received from the mayor's office on November 27, 2023, and is subject for confirmation on December 12, 2023. Daniel Ferris for the Shreveport Environmental Court.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, do you have any additional communications?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Does any council member have any additional communications? Yes.
Can the Chief, come up, please. Good evening, Chief.
Hello, hello.
Yesterday, we had an incident at one of our high schools in my district. I did get a call from some concerned parents, and I know that a parent brought kids to fight at the school. Did the parent get arrested for this?
No, ma'am. We're looking into the incident,
Okay.
and I think there's a lot more to it than probably you know about. But we're looking into it, and within the next few days, I'll be able to give you some more details about what really happened.
I did talk to the school board member there.
Yes, ma'am.
And she explained that maybe some officers were removed during COVID. Have we replaced those, or are we going to replace them?
The school board has the option of hiring as many off-duty officers as they want at any of their schools, and Huntington does have officers there. I don't know if one was there at that very time.
Right. I got the call right about 5 when I left council meeting, and I did go there. It was already dark, but from my understanding is they do have after-school activities.
Okay.
And I think we have 1 till 4.
Okay.
But I would like us to follow up just to see if it's
Oh, I
something we
will.
can do.
Absolutely,
to help.
absolutely.
Also, Mr. Dark, Olive Pines Road is still with no lighting. Raspberry Lane has no lighting. So the lighting has really become an issue in my district. So, okay, so,
But just for future reference, the school board has the options of hiring as many officers as they want for the schools off duty at any time they want. They travel with them to football game, and the security director has not said that they've had any difficulty in finding officers, but I work with them every way that I
Right.
can, absolutely.
I didn't know exactly what was going on, but from my understanding, the school board member was thinking that we were still paying for officers and they wouldn't get them. So I think for clarification, I don't know if it's true. I mean,
Well,
Yeah, school board.
I
has been-
recalled in some of our meetings that we used to have, the crime meetings that we had
Yes.
in the last administration,
Mhm.
that SROs was a big deal, and that the 2 high schools in Caddo Parish that don't have the sheriff's office as a full-time SRO are Shreve and Huntington. Is that
Right.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Why, and I've always wanted to ask this question, why are Shreve and Huntington, why don't they have full-time SROs? Is it because the school board doesn't want to pay for it? I mean, who pays CSO to be Byrd and Southwood and I think Green Oaks has a full-time deputy?
Yeah, they do.
Who, in Woodlawn, why are Huntington and Shreve without SROs full-time?
I would think that the school board would supplement that to happen at any schools that they wanted to, but I have met with them numerous times and explained, just like I did to her, I says, I want you to set up some training and you let our entire department know that any officers that want to work for the school board come to the training, and you can have and hire as many as you want to off duty. And so far, it's been successful. They haven't told me that they've been slacking any.
Could we have 2 dedicated officers that are just SROs though for those 2 schools, or are we just manpower short?
Well, that's 2 more that's off the street, that's out of circulation. But when they hire themselves off, they are off duty.
Yes.
They're still doing their, 8 hours for the citizens on the street. This is just their off-duty job.
I think that's a conversation that we need to have. I would like to have, thanks to our school board, I don't have but 1 school in my district, but I do have children in my district that go to schools. I would love to see full-time. I think we're at a point in our society when you got 2 and 3 in Bossier. North DeSoto has 3, I think, at North DeSoto High School. We need to really be looking, I think we're a step behind, because exactly what you're saying is going to become more and more prevalent And I would really like to see us maybe have a conversation with the school board. Maybe that's something we can talk about in a public safety committee meeting.
Okay, okay.
Thank you,
As I
Chief.
said, they hadn't given me any indication that they've had any difficulty whatsoever hiring off-duty officers to be at the schools, and they pay. You can hire as many as you want to. I'm good with that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Chief,
Thank you,
would you
Chief.
give me an update on the incident that happened at Peach Street as well?
I'm not sure. I'll find out and we'll talk more. Okay.
Thank you. Does any other council member have any additional, Chief?
Chief, would it be possible for us to get a shots fired map for the month of November?
Shots fired?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Okay,
For November, the month of November.
right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. You want you want an email, electronic version, or you want the hard
For
copy?
the
which
next
would-
council meeting,
Okay.
or email all of us?
Email's
Whatever
fine.
you want. We'll make it happen
Yep.
either way you want.
Sure.
Email.
All right, sounds good.
Councilman Telefair, yes.
Chief, I know that this week that we are losing 3 top law enforcement officials in Assistant Chief Tom Oster and Captains Goodwin and Grant, along with Ms. Kathy Robinson, I would call your Chief Executive Secretary, who's
Absolutely.
served us faithfully under 7 police administrations, I believe.
31 years,
And I
yes.
just wanted to go on record and say on behalf of the council here, we appreciate their service of over 30 years each. I'm sure there's a lot more than that. At least 30 years of service, and we do appreciate their time and their effort and their sacrifice away from their families, and we want to also convey our appreciation to their families for giving up their time, away from their loved ones as they serve our great city. So
Absolutely.
I just want to go on record and say that we appreciate all of their services, and we wish them well in their future endeavors.
Thank you so much. I will convey that to all of them. Ms. Kathy Robinson, that has been the face and the name with SPD administration, with the chief's office, for as long as anybody can remember. And she's going to be really, really missed in my world every day. But nonetheless, she says, I'm not disappearing out of SPD. Just won't be there every day. I'll be there now when you need me or when I want to. But such an awesome person.
Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
such an awesome person. About a year and a half ago, she told me that things were winding down for her. She was, thinking about taking on a new chapter in life, and we should begin looking for someone to fill her role and get them there as soon as possible so they can train and work closely beside her for as long as possible. For around the past year and a half, 18 months or so, we found someone promoted from within. She's been working closely with Kathy every day, and so I'm confident that we won't miss a beat, and I'm so thankful to her for that foresight.
Well, we're thankful for all of them. Thank you so much, Chief.
Absolutely.
Chief,
Yes.
do you have an application with you
For which position?
for your secretary, executive? deal?
Already filled. I apologize, already filled. If you'd have said something about a year and a half or
I
2
didn't know,
years
Chief.
ago,
I didn't know.
we could have worked with you.
Thank you, Chief. I didn't know.
Can
I
you-
would have been happy to work with you.
Can you do about 80 words a minute? No
I would have
errors?
been happy to work with you, Chief.
Okay. All right,
Thank you, man.
Yes.
Executive session, there are none. Before we adjourn, Audit and Finance has asked the council members if we would stay for about 10 or 15 minutes. They have some information that Lennox would like to give us. So after we adjourn the meeting, we would like to, do you want us to stay in here? You want us to go in the back? We'll stay in here. And so that's where we are. We have no executive session. If there's nothing else, to come before this body, we are adjourned.
We're going to go ahead and call the Audit and Finance meeting to order. Do we have any public requests to speak? Okay, seeing none. Today, we're going to be discussing the recommendation for our external auditors for the next 4 years. All of the Audit and Finance members received evaluation sheet on the proposals that were received. We had 2 proposals. So we had those 2 proposals that have come in, and we evaluated both proposals. And so I'm going to be asking for a motion for a recommendation on which external auditor that we're going to be going with for the next 4 years.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to hire Carr, Riggs, and Ingram for our external auditor for the next 4-year term.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Carl Riggs is who we'll be going with for the next 4 years. I'm sorry, are there any nays? Okay, well, the ayes have it. Motion passed. If there's nothing else, this meeting's adjourned.
Y'all meet me at Poncho's. We'll have some